Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to try and explain the political system in Total War Attila. It can be somewhat confusing and isn't very well explained in the game, so I thought I'd try and figure it out. I did my research reading stuff online, watching people's videos, checking out the Total War encyclopedia, trying to figure it out. So I will say that not everything here is 100% correct, there's still things I don't understand, but I think I have a pretty good grasp of it and hopefully I can help some more people understand it because it's not the easiest thing to understand. Right, politics. Here we are, politics screen, as we all know. So the first major thing you want to note with the politics screen is the power bar. This one up here, you have to look at this, look at the different segments and decide where you want to be on it. At one end, you're going to have absolute power over the people of your towns and your armies will be strong and do everything you say. At the other end, they're going to be free and the public are going to do what they want and your armies might be a bit lazy and less loyal to you. So think of this end as North Korea, if you want, and this end as some sort of hippie free-for-all state, and then round here is kind of the world we know today where everything's a bit even. You get a bit of public order, a bit of integrity, a bit of loyalty, and there's no big positive or negatives on your faction. If you don't know what integrity is, it's basically the public order of an army. If it gets too low, they'll revolt and turn against you and civil war will begin. If it's high, they'll be devoted to you, they'll have a morale bonus in battle, and the army will be more effective for you. Now, how do we make the power bar go up and down, I hear you cry? It is the average of the dominion, which is your influence, your family's influence versus other nobles and candidates' influence, and control, which is affected by whether you fail or succeed at political actions. So the average of the yellow versus the average of the red will give you the power bar result. So, how do we make our control bar go up and down? As I said, success and failure of political actions. Now, if you try to do something with a certain character, like one of these options down here, if this fails or succeeds, it's going to affect your control bar, or it might do nothing. I'll give you some examples of this in a bit. Next, how do we control our dominion? The dominion is the influence of everyone, so the influence of all my family tree and all the other nobles and candidates put together. So you can see the influence number of everyone, and these numbers get added up, so 35 plus 61, and all that comes together to make 420. You can see at the bottom there. And 87% of that 420 is in my family tree. And the rest of it is with the other nobles and candidates. So the average of the dominion bar is my family's influence, which is most of the bar, which is yellow, and then these guys, which is red. Now it kind of seems like the other nobles and candidates are your enemies almost, but they're really not. These are the guys that if one of your generals dies or you raise a new army, they're going to be the ones that replace them. Or you could assign them as a governor, but they're not in your family until you adopt them into your family. So to make the yellow bar go down, I just need to decrease my family's influence. I can do that by spending it on these buttons and options down here, or assigning someone to office, or using it on any of the random political dilemmas that may occur. But you have to be wary spending influence because it can affect certain people in different ways. So for example, Getholf here, my king, has 31 influence. His son Garulf has 35. So he has more influence than his king, which affects his loyalty. As you can see, more influential than the ruler, -1. So he's thinking, geez, I've got more power than this guy, I should be the high king. So that's an example of how different people's influence can affect each other. Another example, he also has -2 office given to subordinate, because that other noble, Heiglokar, or however you say his damn name, was given office as a companion, and I couldn't stop it because Getwolf didn't have enough influence to stop it, so it just happened and I lost some control, which was fine because I wanted to lose control, but it's pissed off Garulf at the same time. So you just have to try and manage everyone's loyalty, influence, and all their traits so that you can have a nice non-civil war based faction. The more your family grows, the tougher this is going to be, but that's part of the fun. Now your governors of each of your provinces held will be a statesman, and they will be in the army or the garrison of that specific city, the provincial capital that they reside in. They will never be in a movable army. They will always stay to defend the provincial capital where they stay. Everyone else will be potentially in a movable army. So he's an admiral, so he's in the navy, and he's just a general of one of my armies. Now, as I said earlier, traits are a big thing. Every person in your family or other candidate has their traits, some negative, some positive. You have to be careful of people who develop too many negative traits because they can become somewhat of a hindrance to your army. See, this guy's not too bad. Most of his are positive traits. good stuff. Now Getwolf, my king, lots of negative traits. As you can see, I'm thinking now, is this guy the best king for me? All his negative traits could come back to bite me in the ass a bit later, or right now. That's why you need to be keeping an eye on people's traits. So maybe my heir to the throne here, Gutholf, doesn't really have any negative traits, has none at all actually. So perhaps he is better for the throne. Maybe I should get someone to assassinate my king, which is expensive and dangerous, because if it backfires, if it goes wrong, shit could go down, and that is not what you want. So you have to be careful when thinking about this stuff. Right, now let's take a look at some of the intrigue options. All the buttons down here. So assassinate, as I just covered, the reason you might want to use this to get rid of someone who has too many negative traits or is causing too many influential problems. That's what assassinate is for. Diminish popularity, as it says, for reducing someone's influence. So this could be a great one if you have too much influence, like my family does at the moment, and I want to decrease it. I could use this. Now adopt. This one's fairly obvious. You can bring one of the other nobles or candidates into your family, thus that will bring their influence and stuff onto your side of the family. Again, you have to think about the dominion for that. Secure loyalty, fairly obvious, increases someone's loyalty. This can be particularly useful if you have a general or governor who is maybe wavering a bit in their loyalty. Arrange marriage, you may have a daughter or widow that doesn't have a husband and they could marry someone into the family. The point of wives is to cook all the dinner, to give your general traits. As you just saw, these can be positive or negative. If they get a bit too negative, this may be the time to use the divorce button and get rid of them, or if you feel like being a complete bastard, just assassinate her, but that's up to you. And seek wife, this will just find your general a wife if he doesn't have one, but again you have to be aware of whether you find one with negative or bad traits. You can reject them. Gather support, this will get you a bit of control, which is obviously going to affect your control meter if it succeeds. This can be a good one if you get it to fail. You could lose control and spend influence, so if you've got too much of both of those, this can be a great one to use. Then there's embezzle funds, which is fairly obvious, as it says. You'll gain a bit of extra money at the risk of possibly being found out, which I imagine will do terrible things for corruption and loyalty and all sorts. Become retainer, this is for when, if you have a large family, not everyone can be a general and such in the army, so you can make someone a retainer. This basically gives that person a mentor, and they'll be their apprentice, and they will gain influence and such from whatever their mentor does, and they can build themselves up that way. One of the last things to mention is office, this section on the right here. This will give your characters certain traits while they're in office. They stay in office for 8 turns. Once they've completed that term, they can move up to the next position, if you see them fit to. This gives them the number of traits in personal influence or integrity, so it can be a great place to put commanders of your armies. Here's a few examples of politics in motion. So I'm going to have Wolfgar here. I'm going to get him to gather support for himself, and we shall see the outcome. His action was successful and we gained 6% control, so that's going to go onto our control meter and increase our power. And again, now we're going to have Getwolf try to secure the loyalty of Garolf, because his loyalty is getting a bit low. And we're going to have Wolfgar embezzle some funds, and we'll see how that goes. And the verdict is securing loyalty has failed. So you can see there that I've lost 4 control, so that counts as a failed political action on my control meter, and I lose control, which could potentially affect my power bar. So you can see how it works. I have indeed lost power. I'm down to 65 now, as you can see, and the embezzlement has also failed, which has lost me another 4, so that's probably why I'm down to 65%. So there you go, there's 2 actions that both failed, which has affected my control meter. If I was successful in those 2 actions, I would either have no difference to my control meter, and I would have just done what I was trying to do, secure loyalty and embezzle some funds. But because neither of them worked, I didn't get any gains and I only lost, but that's okay, because I kind of wanted to lose, because I wanted to lose some control so that my power meter goes more to where I want it to be. So don't be afraid to lose control or to lose dominion, because it will put you where you want to be on the power level. Okay, so while I was trying to do a few different things on turns to try and get some different examples, I've come across some weird shit. So I tried to get Garolf here to use diminished popularity on Heiglika, right? Now I realised, why would I do this? Because Garolf had 35 influence, and it cost me 30 to do that. So it's cost me 30 influence from my family, and it's only cost Heiglika, the action was successful, and it only cost him 10 influence. So therefore I've used up 20 more influence from my family than the other nobles, yet my dominion remains high. So I'm a little bit confused by that, for one thing, because it doesn't really make sense. Why would I use that up? And then I noticed something else, that in the notification it says, this is telling me the action was successful, he lost 10 influence, gained a trait, blah blah blah. And you notice it says 86% dominion that I have, apparently. But if I go onto the main tab, dominion, it says I have 88%. So I can't really work that one out. Why is a 2% difference from the notification to the actual tab? And it's the same thing with overall power. 67% overall power, 68% overall power. So like, I don't know whether it's just a glitch, but yeah. Now another thing I've noticed, despite what I said earlier when I said all the influence adds up to whatever it says in the dominion is the influence amount is, it says 398 influence altogether. But if I add up everyone's influence, whip out a calculator, add it all up, it does not add up to 398. It's in fact 395 for all of my family and the other nobles. So I'm unsure of why it says that, 398. And I had Heiglika assassinated in one of them, which left me with no other nobles. So only candidates were left, and I had 100% dominion. So I guess candidates don't come into play in terms of dominion. It's only the other nobles that do. But still, I can't figure out why it says 398 when the influence on the screen does not add up to 398. So that's another thing we need to try and work out. That concludes this here video. I hope this has been helpful. I think the political system in Total War Attila is pretty good. Maybe a little bit buggy. Maybe that's why some of the numbers don't add up. I'm not quite sure. Or maybe there's just something I'm missing. Either way, I think it's worth trying to get into the political system and to understand it, because it can really add some depth to the game, make you care about your characters a little bit more so they're not just mindless drones running around the map. Maybe you'll get a little bit sad when they die like I did. Anyway, hopefully we can completely figure this out, and thanks for watching.